Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants Hangout. I apologize for the false start, but we had a little feedback issue, which seems to have cleared itself up now that we've restarted. My name is Joe Grabowski. I'll be your host for today. For those who don't know, we're all about bringing science, adventure, and conservation to classrooms across North America. Very excited today to talk about Arctic Science Month. The Canadian government has just declared December to be Arctic Science Month. And with the Arctic changing rapidly with shrinking sea ice, this is pretty important. It excites some people because they think about faster shipping routes, they think about new sources of resources, but we don't fully understand the implications of these changes, how it's going to affect our climate or the animals that call the Arctic home. And that's why it's so important that we're doing good science and good research in the Arctic. So I'm so excited to be kicking December off with this hangout with 3 members of the Sedna Epic expedition. It's comprised of an international team of women ocean explorers, scientists, medical professionals, journalists, movie makers, photographers, artists, educators, and scuba diving professionals. During the summer of 2018 and 2019, the team will boldly go where no man has gone before, doing a snorkel relay 3,000 kilometers through the Northwest Passage to bring global attention to disappearing sea ice in the Arctic. Their goal is to combine scientific investigation with indigenous knowledge, working with girls and young women in Inuit communities situated along the route. So it's my pleasure to introduce our 3 guests today. We have Susan. She is an expedition leader. She's a geologist, geophysicist, journalist, and polar snorkeler. She was also recently named a fellow of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society. And she's joining us in Calgary, Alberta today. We also have Stephanie Gandula joining us. She's a marine archaeologist, an underwater robot pilot, dive master, and she's joining us from Alpena, Michigan today. And lastly, we have Katrina Godding joining us. She's also a surveyor, a geologist, an advanced diver, a girl guide member, and a rugby player. She's joining us from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia today. All right. And the last piece of business to cover is questions. We're going to do things a little bit differently today. We'll have a little Q&A period at the end. Any classes who are joining live and watching can send in questions via Twitter with the hashtag Exploring by the Seat, or any classrooms joining on camera today can also send their questions in at any time. We'll have periodic breaks for questions. Use the blue chat sidebar. So if you look over on the left of your screen, the teachers who are joining us on camera, there's a little blue chat icon. If you click on that, you can send your questions in, and we'll get to them periodically throughout the Hangout. But I'm going to throw things over to Susan now, and she's going to get things started on her end in Calgary.
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. I'm here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, just beside the Rocky Mountains, and it's snowing here today. My name is Susan Eaton, and I'm the team leader for the Sedna Epic expedition. I'm really pleased to tell you about my educational background and tell you how I got to go snorkeling and diving in the Arctic and study climate change in the Arctic. In high school, I studied all the sciences, including marine biology, geology, geophysics, and obviously math, chemistry, and so on. When I went to university, I did a combined major in marine biology and geology. And then I later did a master's degree in geophysics because I call myself a geophysicist, which is a more mathematical version of a geologist. I study earthquakes and seismicity in the Earth's subsurface. But I was always interested in the ocean because, like Katrina, I grew up in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada. And I started swimming at the age of 3. I got certified as a scuba diver at the age of 16. I became a dive instructor at age 23. And I was always very, very interested in the ocean. So because I studied marine biology and geology and I became a dive instructor, I got to see the planet underwater. And 71% of the planet is covered by ocean. So if you don't study the ocean, you really don't get to know the planet. So that led me during a very long path to diving in Antarctica and the Arctic and Vancouver Island and the Queen Charlotte Islands. But eventually I learned through my diving and my snorkeling that the Arctic Ocean was in trouble, that the ice was disappearing. And I decided that the best place for me to spend my time in the ocean would be in Canada's Arctic, working with children, with youth, with women on trying to come up with solutions for ocean change and climate change. And most of you know the term climate change really well, I'm sure. But the term ocean change talks about the ocean and what's changing the ocean. The ocean's warming, it's acidifying, and the density and conductivity of the ocean is changing with the influx of fresh water from glaciers and icebergs. So I've decided to spend my time in the Canadian Arctic snorkeling and diving and studying what's going on. And Stephanie and Katrina were with me this summer in the Arctic, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to start by showing a short video, and then at that point I'll take a few questions if you've got any. And otherwise we'll continue on to Stephanie, who's our archaeologist. So here goes the film.
I don't like cold water. If you're going to study climate change at the poles, you have to immerse yourself in the issue. That's why we're going to the Arctic. There's walruses, polar bears, orcas, Greenland sharks. Our team of 10 sea women is taking on a monumental task, and that is to snorkel the Northwest Passage. It's never been done before. It's 3,000 kilometers. We have one vision, one mission, and we're going to do it. Sea ice is rapidly disappearing in the Arctic in terms of its aerial extent every year, and it's impacting the ecosystem. And the disappearing sea ice is a result of global climate change. And no one has ever studied the Northwest Passage before, the Arctic in the Snorkel Zone. We have an extraordinary team of women, explorers, submersible pilots, medical doctors, scientists, and journalists who are going to explore the Northwest Passage in the Snorkel Zone. The Snorkel Zone is a really unique zone where the land, the sea, and the air meet. And as a snorkeler, you're half out of the water and you're half in the water.
Susan Eaton is a hardworking geophysicist. She's very determined.
All the time people say she's crazy.
But she's definitely extremely passionate about what she does.
Susan comes from a background of very strong women. Her mother was a marine biologist.
This is where I'm headed. I'm going to mount an extreme snorkel expedition through the Northwest Passage from Pond Inlet all the way to Nuvik. It's 3,000 kilometers. So in order to snorkel the Northwest Passage in one season, say from July to October, we need to make distance every day, perhaps 80 kilometers a day.
Maybe I better remember to put some antipsychotics in my drug.
I call Susan Super Sue because she does get things done.
We'll try to go 24/7 in a relay. One woman in, one woman out.
I hope I'm not going to go crazy.
Susan will take risks, but she takes measured risks. I can't say that she won't be injured or, God forbid, die, but
Obviously, there'll be days when there's ice that the boat is stuck in ice, or there'll be bad weather, there'll be storms. We're going to fight every day in the water. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy.
And you don't dwell on the what ifs too much.
I have a friend who worked in the Arctic a lot, and he considers himself an expert. He scoffs at her plans, and I'm sure she's going to prove him wrong.
I took this concept from a eureka moment, and now 10 of us are going to the Arctic.
Yeah, let's go here.
All right, you're back.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie Gandula, who is Sedna's maritime archaeologist. And if you're going to study the Arctic in the Snorkel Zone, you can use lots of tools and technologies. But Stephanie has one in particular, underwater robots, that she's going to talk about. So over to Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
We gotcha.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm super excited to be, great to see all the students in my little screen here. Awesome to see you guys interested in Arctic exploration. Like Susan and Joe said, my name is Stephanie Gandula, and I'm an underwater archaeologist, and that means that I get to study things that humans have made that are now underwater.
All right.
Have been underwater before. So that means I could study anything from lighthouses to bridges to docks, cribs, but most specifically and most often I get to study shipwrecks. And here in the Great Lakes, right in the middle of North America, we have some of the most amazing shipwrecks in the whole world. In fact, there's hundreds and hundreds. And Joe, did I hear right that there's another Thunder Bay classroom on the call?
You do. We've got Mr. Cameron's grade 5-6 class in Thunder Bay.
Awesome. Awesome. So they're in a much larger Thunder Bay. I'm in Thunder Bay, Lake Huron, which even though it is smaller than Thunder Bay, Canada, it's a very significant area. And where I am based is a national marine sanctuary. And there are 14 national marine sanctuaries across the US, but the one I'm based at, Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, is the only one in freshwater. So that means we're the only, in the US, the only national body of protected water designated to specifically protect our rich, rich maritime history. And so we work on shipwrecks from old wooden schooners up to huge steel freighters. And we estimate that there are about 10,000 shipwrecks in all of the Great Lakes. Specifically where I'm at, we think there's about 200. And one of the ways that we do explore these shipwrecks is, like Susan said, underwater robots or ROVs, remotely operated vehicles. And where I'm actually speaking to you from today is what we call at the sanctuary our Makerspace. I'll see if I can show you guys around. There's all sorts of gear and gadgets and tools around here. Big spaces for students of all ages to come and build robots. In fact, we even have our expert robot builder over here, Bradley. Where is Bradley? There he is. Bradley, give a wave. He's here right now building kits for students to come and learn what it's like to actually build a robot. They get to design it, and then they deploy it underwater. And I'll give you guys just a sneak peek of one of the robots. This is just the frame. But before I go on and talk about the robots, I want to let you guys just an idea of how I got to be where I am today. I had a pretty different start, if you will. Unlike Susan, I did not start in the sciences. In fact, I started in English literature. So studying Shakespeare and all the classics and learning about literature and also learning about writing. And it wasn't until many, many years later that I decided to sort of meld those two worlds of science and writing and go into the underwater world of archaeology. And so I think that's a good lesson in that it doesn't necessarily matter what you study as long as you're learning how to study and learning how to learn. And it's very acceptable and very normal for people to change their careers a number of times. So don't be overwhelmed by having to decide right now what you're going to do for the rest of your life, because there's careers out there that we haven't even imagined yet. In fact, when I was taking English literature, I had no idea that I could make a living being a scuba diver and learning about the interesting shipwreck stories. And so talked a little bit about the Great Lakes and where we're at now. And I am originally from Montana. And I think that's another little interesting, once again, unlike Susan and Katrina, I did not grow up by the ocean. I grew up in the Rocky Mountains, just like Calgary. And I'm sure it's probably snowing in my hometown in Montana right now too. So people often ask me, well, if you didn't grow up around the ocean, how did you become an underwater archaeologist? And my answer to that is that, well, I have a twofold answer. I mean, even though in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, whether it's Calgary or whether it's Montana, or even in the heart of the US, whether it's Kansas, we are all still very, very, very connected to the ocean. What we do in the heart of the US and in Canada has an effect on our oceans worldwide. So it's important to realize that we're all connected. And I do think my love of the outdoors is what also led me to wanting to explore the oceans. And so just a little bit before I show you guys the short movie clip I wanted to about the ROVs, what we did here in Michigan is I worked with a group of 10th and 11th grade young women to help me prepare some underwater robot kits that the Sedna team could bring to the Arctic and work with the community there so they could really see what's under the water, really bring the ocean to eye level for the community there in the Canadian Arctic. And the young women that helped me here in Michigan put together what the control boxes, and I'll show you what those look like. Sorry, Bradley. Bradley just put these together. So these are very simple control boxes that had to be wired. It takes probably half a day to wire these together. And that's what the young 10th and 11th grader young women helped me to do, is get these wired together so we could have them ready to go for the students in Iqaluit. So they wired these together, and then we were able to bring 6 of those kits along with a frame like this, which is just simple simple PVC pieces. And we brought these as kits so the people in Iqaluit could put them together and actually deploy them in the water up there. And another part of our program, which I believe Katrina will talk about also, and another way that we brought the ocean to eye level for the community in Iqaluit was with our mobile aquarium program. And we went out and collected some specimens in the ocean out there, 29-degree water and Fahrenheit, and brought them back on the dock for the community to come and see what lives under the water. And so with that, I want to show you guys a short film about the ROV program that we brought to Iqaluit. And I'm going to share my screen right now. Entire screen. We have an ROV kit here. And can you guys tell me what an ROV is?
Operated vehicle.
That's right. Good job. Remotely operated vehicle.
My name is Stephanie Gandula, and I'm an underwater archaeologist, and I'm part of the Sedna Epic expedition, and really excited to be here today working with the community of Iqaluit to explore underwater technology and the types of technology that we as archaeologists and explorers and scientists and biologists and geologists use to see what's under the water. Have you guys ever looked under the waters here in Iqaluit? No.
My name's Katrina Godding. I have a geology degree, and I also have a marine geomatics degree, which means I can map the ocean floor. So today we're actually building some remotely operated vehicles with some of the local children.
And we all sorts of different shapes and sizes here.
We had some pre-cut pieces, and we just had to piece them together. But the idea was you wanted to have a solid base as the frame, and you wanted to build up so that you were able to attach on 3 different motors. So you had to have it all equally balanced and weighted, and have buoyancy so that it wouldn't sink or it wouldn't float, but you had to be neutrally buoyant.
Working with the technology that's behind underwater robots is such a great way to engage a community, to engage the students of all ages in the community, to really get out and have hands-on experiences exploring their underwater worlds.
We practiced ourselves. It took us probably 45 minutes. These kids came out in minutes, and they were done in about 10. They were in shock that they could build this and put it in the water and fly it around. They've never done that. They were just in awe. It's full of smiles.
This has been part of really a cultural exchange and a north-south connection, I'd like to think. There was a team of high school girls back in Alpena, Michigan, that put together the control boxes for these kits. So then Team Sedna could travel with them to the Arctic and bring them to the communities and work with them there. We had folks of all ages. We had some, senior citizens piloting the robots. We had some little boys that came and were putting the robots together. working as teams, and of course a lot of young women that came out high school age and younger.
Yeah, it's really cool. That was the first question. They're like, what's going to happen to all these pieces? And when I said they were staying here, they're like, we get to use them again. And they were very excited. Team Sedna wants to inspire the youth. They want to show them that there's a world that they might not necessarily know that's out there. There's things I learned that I didn't know were out there. So the fact that Team Sedna is coming up here with such varied backgrounds to inspire the children, it's just wonderful.
I think probably the biggest takeaway, the biggest outcomes from these underwater robot programs that we do are people seeing that it's something that they can do. I mean, it's something, we break it down for them right there, and it's something that they can actually understand that it's like a career path they might be able to follow, or even an environment that they might be able to see that they never really even thought they could.
Another one said she can't wait to be in the robotics program next year. So it's just the excitement and the inspiration that's important.
So to unshare, okay. How do I do that?
You're back already. You did it. You clicked the green.
Okay. Very good. Well, one last thing.
Oh, sorry, Stephanie, go ahead.
I was just going to say one last thing, and then I'll hand it over to Katrina. Are we getting feedback again? Or am I just
sounds okay on my end.
Okay, I'll just keep going. Like Katrina said in the video, the folks there who came to build those robots really made short work of it, and I think had a great time, and were exposed to some new and exciting opportunities. There's students here in Alpena, Michigan, who have been building these robots and exploring the shipwrecks that are very shallow right off the shores here. So I think it's something very doable for all of the students out in the audience today. And now on to Katrina.
All right, Katrina, I'm just going to stop you for 1 second. I'm going to, just before you start, I'm going to take a little question break and see if there's some questions from the classes joining so far. So what I'm going to do is really quickly introduce our classroom. So wave like crazy when you see, when you hear your name. We've got Mr. Cameron's grade 5-6s joining us in Thunder Bay, Ontario. We've got Mrs. Edgar's grade 4s joining us in Hutchinson, Kansas. We have Mrs. Tibshirani's grade 6s joining us in Canada, Ontario. Mrs. Cathcart's grade 4s in Barrie, Ontario. We have Mrs. Fraser's grade 3s, 5s, 7s, and 8s joining us in Orangeville, Ontario. And our final group is Mrs. Gotowski's grade 4, 5s in Campbell, California. So we have a great group from all across North America joining us. So what I'll do is, if you have a question, send somebody right up to the camera, and we'll take 3 or 4 right now. If you have a question for Susan about the snorkel, or a question for Stephanie about the ROVs.
Okay,
We have access.
You get that?
We missed it. Try again.
Oh, slowly.
We have access to like the ROV kit.
So Stephanie, they're wondering if they have access to the ROV kit.
So absolutely, who we work with here is an international network and group based in California, actually. I'm not sure where that question came from, but it's the Marine Advanced Technology Education Group, the MATE Center, and they host competitions all over the world, actually, and they also have these kits available for purchase on their website. So it's the materov.org. Sorry, marinetech.org, and that's just one example of those ROV kits. And they're all those kits are really made of regular household materials that you can put together from a hardware store. And I'd be glad to give some more tips. Somehow, Joe, if I could send out a link or something, I could connect people with an easy way to get those kits.
Yeah, if you pass me on the link, I'll happily pass it on to the classrooms joining today.
Okay.
Mr. Cameron, I can see that you have someone up at the camera in Thunder Bay. Go ahead.
When you are going on 2018, what are your expectations for the trip? When you're going on this trip in 2018, what are your expectations for the trip?
Do you want me to answer that, Joe?
Sure, Susan.
Okay. Well, we want to study the changes in the Arctic Ocean in the Snorkel Zone. Our scientists are going to be using diver propulsion vehicles to move them through the water, and we'll put instruments on those vehicles. We'll have scientists on board the big ship, and we'll have scientists in Zodiac. So we'll study things like plankton and jellyfish and plastics in the ocean. We'll also visit all the communities along the way and deliver our robot program, our aquarium program, which you haven't seen pictures of yet. And we'll take young people snorkeling with us. So essentially, we're going to study what's going on in the ocean, and we're going to do community outreach work with the Inuit girls, youth, and elders. And we're going to ask the Inuit what they know about climate change and ocean change, because they live there and they've lived there for thousands of years, and they're the best positioned people to really tell us what's going on. How's that sound?
Sounds good. We will jump to Kansas. I can see Mrs. Edgar has someone up at the camera. If you want to go ahead.
Have you ever had a bad storm?
What was the question, Joe?
Was it?
Have you ever had a
I think she's asking, have you ever had a bad storm? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever had a bad storm while you were up in the Arctic?
Actually, the weather's been pretty good. Unusually warm, which is an effect of climate change in the Arctic. But when I've been in Antarctica, I've been in the worst storm ever, one notch below a hurricane, in a boat going from Antarctica back to South America, where people couldn't sleep in their bunks because the boat was tossing so badly that you get tossed out of your bunk. But so far, the Arctic's been pretty gentle in terms of weather for us.
All right, and we'll steal one more question before Katrina. Mrs. Fraser's group in Orangeville, I see you have someone at the camera. If you just want to make sure the mic's turned on for me.
Yeah, can you hear us?
Okay. Yep.
Yes.
How old were you when you started to be
I was 34.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Thank you very much.
All right, Katrina, we're ready.
I have photography. Means I can. So my current job in Nova Scotia, I work in Toronto. So I will fly down. I moved to Florida. All the people and I think so while working for that company, in invitations for any new years, I started diving at my past company. I started diving. I did all farm water diving. Then I Sedna attempt my very first. So I don't control so going into so one thing I want that Reese my Nova Scotia provinces in Canada, just like states in the U.S. And I was just recognized by the Nova Scotia Coast Assembly and it was a thank you and acknowledgement for all the experience. So that's a great local politicians went to the meeting with all the politicians from Nova Scotia and thought that they should acknowledge the work that Sedna is doing and gave me the signed and sealed document. So another part of my life is that I have been a Girl Guide leader for many years. I've been in Girl Guides for 19 years. Today, our local schools don't have schools. We had a service day, and conveniently for there's 3 groups in one today, and we have been doing crafts and doing badge work. I know they're really excited to say hi, so I'm going to try to spin it so that they can all wave. So they, instead of going to school today, came to Girl Guides and now are basically in school because I made them do a presentation. So they're pretty excited, but I've always enjoyed working with youth, especially young women. The fact that Team Sedna is a group of women, I think, is very inspiring, and to bring the team of women up to the Arctic. I'm currently a leader with 3 units, so I have a lot of youth engagement. So part of the interest I know when I was selected for the team is that I've done a lot of youth engagement. And one of the things we did in the Arctic was we had 10 Inuit girls join our team while we were there, and they participated in our robot day, in our aquarium day, but they also, for the very first time, got to go snorkeling in their local Arctic waters with us. So that day, there was a few of us that got selected to take them out for the first time. Stephanie and I think, were both 2 of the women that got to go snorkeling with the girls. But working with the girls, you have to learn when you're working with youth, as many of the teachers know, it's a different interacting with youth than it is with other adults. So I just have had a lot of experience, but I'm going to have to ask either Stephanie or Susan to play the girls' first snorkel video because I have terrible internet and it would be very choppy. So I don't know if Susan can hear me or Stephanie you can play the first.
Yeah.
For me.
Let me check with Susan. Susan, are you able to play the video for Katrina?
Yeah, I think I know how to share the screen now.
Perfect.
So let me try. Okay. Desktop 1. Is that screen share now?
Yep.
Ding. Okay. Got it.
I see it.
Wonderful. I am trainable.
The purpose of our program with the girls was to get them in the water for the first time snorkeling. These are girls that have never really been in the water at all.
I'm so excited, but the nerves are setting in, and I'm like, I'm actually about to do this right now.
A lot of them were taught when they were young that the water was bad. Their parents didn't want them to fall through the ice. So they were taught to be afraid of the water. So they're afraid of the water. They look at water and they don't even want to look at it.
We're in about 15 feet of water here, so you can see patches on the bottom. You'll be able to actually see the bottom once you get out. It's kind of rocky with sandy parts in between, so it should be good.
A lot of them felt uncomfortable at first. Then you have to teach them how to click. And eventually they just go. They just leave you and they push you away even, and they just go. And that's a wonderful moment.
These ones are floatsing, they're Inuit floatsing. They're controlling their nervous system down here. That's what they do with the water.
They were inspired. I think they're going to go back to the water. I think a couple of them are actually going to go ahead and get scuba certification so they can actually scuba. And I'm pretty sure at least one of them is going to go study science and do something that's related to underwater.
Once you do it once, you kind of get used to it. But it's gotten easier, especially watching everyone do it first.
Taking the girls in the water, I think, is going to be the highlight of the expedition. It was wonderful. You're really taking a step into changing somebody's life and the way they look at the ocean. And and that is extremely gratifying.
What you're gonna do? Lift yourself up. Okay. It was awesome. It was amazing to see it from here. I've like walked on the when it's low tide, but it's cool to see it when you're in the water.
All right, Katrina, you're back on.
I actually think it's kind of between PowerPoint. Susan?
Susan, Katrina just has a question for you.
For the PowerPoint.
Sure, absolutely. Yes, I have a PowerPoint. Sorry. So, Joe, I was just having the feedback in terms of timing.
Why don't we jump to a little more Q&A then?
Okay.
Yeah? All right. Let's visit. I know our class in Canada had another question. They asked if they could ask another one. So there we go. Microphone's on.
Okay, go.
So based on what you see in the Arctic, how is climate the animals?
Okay. Well, because the sea ice is thinning and because it's disappearing, the animals that need ice to survive on are going to be threatened. So, for example, polar bears use ice to hunt from. They need multi-year pack ice and ice for long periods of time to catch seals. And if they don't have pack ice, then they can't hunt seals. A lot of seals have their young on the ice too. So the disappearing and or thinning Arctic sea ice presents problems for marine mammals. And with respect to fish, it also poses problems because the ocean is warming and the fish are moving further north. So populations of fish are migrating northwards looking for colder water. So the entire food chain or the web of life in the Arctic Ocean is changing as the water warms, as it becomes more acidic. And that's a big concern for everyone in Canada, the world, and especially for the Inuit who live in the Arctic who depend upon their food sources from the ocean.
All right, let's jump to Mrs. Cathcart's group in Barrie. Your microphone is on.
Have you ever been in waters?
Can you try that one more time?
Question was?
Ask again, Matt.
Have you ever been in the waters?
Have you ever been
Yes, I have, but I'm going to let Stephanie answer that one.
What was it again?
I think it was, have you ever been in the Arctic waters yet?
Oh, yes. And it was lovely. Beautiful, clear water, and amazing ocean life, critters that I had never seen before. And pretty cold. It was cold. It was Fahrenheit, but it was. I like to say there's no such thing as cold water. Smart gear, so we do.
All right, great question. I can see up at the camera in California, Mrs. Gotowski's group. I can see you're up at the camera. Go ahead.
Oh, hello. So what are the major exports of the Arctic? What are the major exports and imports of the Arctic?
Wow, that's a really good question. The major exports of the Arctic, I think on Baffin Island in Canada, there is an iron ore mine. So we have mines situated in the Arctic. And fish, probably fisheries would be exported. But ironically, almost everything to the Arctic is imported by plane or by ship because there's no roads to the Canadian Arctic. And that means that once a year, big cargo ships come in and they deliver trucks and cars and earth movers. They deliver food and clothing and all the supplies that people need that they can't afford to fly in by aircraft. So the Arctic imports almost everything because they don't produce their own food. In some cases, they're small greenhouses, but not enough to feed the entire population. So they import mostly everything, and they would export art as well. Inuit carvers and artists are world-renowned for their artwork. But in terms of natural resources, you'd be looking at minerals. And in Alaska, in the United States, there's oil that's exported from Alaska and fish. Anything to add, Katrina or Stephanie?
Sums it up, I think.
Yeah, I would say it's not my expertise about what gets imported and exported to the Arctic, but I would think fish and Arctic carvings are the biggest things, as well as any type of steel products that they're allowed to export.
Thank you. I think another one of us might have some questions. So, yeah.
Okay, Katrina, I see you have someone with you who might have a question.
My question is, are there any threats that you will face going to the Northwest Passage?
So Susan, you might be catching on that topic.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Are there any threats?
Emily, you're not taking the bus, you know that?
Are there any threats you might face in the Northwest Passage?
Yes, I mean, polar bears are dangerous. And when you're snorkeling in pack ice, you can't always see the polar bear. And they hunt from pack ice. Strong currents are difficult for snorkelers. And hypothermia.
Wait, no.
So the longer you spend in the waters, the colder you might become. I think those are the major threats to the person, but the boat could get stuck in ice or hit an ice cube.
Shut the door, guys. Okay. Let's jump to Mrs. Cathcart. If you guys have another question, we're good to go.
When you're on the expedition, how will you eat?
Will we eat?
Yeah.
Katrina, why don't you answer that?
So when we go to the Arctic, we're actually going to be living and staying on a vessel. So we will bring all of our food with us beforehand. The boat will be fully loaded with food. So we will sleep on the boat, eat on the boat, shower on the boat. The only time we'll hit land is when we stop and do any type of outreach in the communities, when we bring the mobile aquariums and the ROVs into the communities. The rest of the time we'll be living, eating on the boat with everything that we brought with us.
All right, and Mrs. Gotowski's group, let's give you guys one more from California.
What is popular animal in
So what is the most popular animal in the Arctic?
Well, I'll tell you what my most popular animal is. It's the bowhead whale, which you might not know what it looks like. But it can live up to 205 years. It can live longer than an elephant. So find bowhead whales in the Arctic. that still have harpoons in them from 200 years ago. And we know the whale is that old because firstly, the harpoon dates the whale. And secondly, the eyeballs of the bowhead whales can be studied by scientists to age date the animal. These are the longest living mammals on the planet.
Thank you.
What about you, Stephanie? What's your favorite animal in the Arctic?
Polar.
Was that the polar bears?
Yes, polar bears for sure.
All right. And Katrina, what about you?
I would have to say narwhal. That is one I think it's down here. Just because
All right.
underwater unicorn.
Very cool.